It's language that your brain can understand. And it's also experiences that bring your body these experiences of safety. And that's what changes your brain. And that's what makes creativity a lot easier. Your dreams will always require your healing, and you need to know that in order to move forward. If you feel stuck in your creativity, your art, your business, or your life, then it's essential to understand that you are being asked to heal what's in the way of you creating what you dream about. This podcast is all about the relationship between your emotional health and your creativity. I'm Courtney Lancaster, and this is the Heal Create podcast. Welcome to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. Today I want to talk about inner child work, and I want to talk about why some people have this experience of inner child work not working. The reason why I want to bring this language to creatives as much as possible is because it's really our inner children that keep us from creating the dreams that we have, those creative, artistic pursuits. And you probably know by now, but if you don't, I'll just refresh that anything that keeps you from moving forward, like imposter syndrome, procrastination, doubt, confusion, anxiety, depression, it's all protective. It's all keeping you from expressing yourself in the version of you that you want to be. It's all keeping you from achieving the things that you want to achieve, going towards the goals that you want to go towards. And we have it a little bit backwards because we think that fear is sort of this or resistance is this force that we need to fight against, that we need to override, that we need to push back against. And the truth is that when you get to know these protective parts of you and understand why they're protecting you, then you really come into touch with this idea that we are way more afraid to succeed than we are to fail. As a matter of fact, staying small and keeping ourselves hidden, we might not actually say that we're doing that, but if we are avoiding the dreams that we have, then we really are. And it's actually a really brilliant way to stay safe, is to stay small. And then to even blame external, situations or forces or even past trauma on why we can't move forward. But the truth is that befriending these protective parts of you, however they come up, whatever is in the way of you actually moving towards your true self and your dreams, is the path forward. And internal family systems is a therapeutic modality that gets you in touch with those different parts of you as if they were younger children, as if they were different parts of a family that make up you. So you'd imagine a long dinner table with all of these different parts of you, and they each have an opinion about what the best thing is for you. And your authentic self sits at the seat of the table and eventually is able to listen to all of these different parts and tend to the parts that might be wounded and scared, tend to the parts that might be angry, helps them feel heard and expressed, and then makes decisions for your life, or decisions that move you in the direction of the thing that you want to do, based on what your authentic self is. So I want to expand on that idea a little bit. We'll start with a simple analogy. I heard Ashok Gupta, he created this brain retraining program called the Gupta program. And he basically helps people retrain their brain for safety. It's a really great program if you struggle with chronic illness, mold sensitivity, any kind of allergies or whatever. It basically helps you to bring in more goodness so that your body can feel safe, and then it can heal, and then it won't be as sensitive. That's a different topic, but it's a great program. So I took his program a few years ago, and he talked about this analogy when he was talking about in the inner child work. He was talking about, imagine that you are at dinner at a friend's house and they offer you a piece of cake. And it's delicious and you eat the cake and it's yummy. And then they say, do you want a second piece? Well, you might have one part of you that's like, yes, absolutely. Give me that second piece of cake. And then you might have another part of you that's like, no, I probably shouldn't. I'm, too much sugar doesn't make me feel very good, or I'm trying to lose weight or whatever. And those are different parts of you. Where do those parts of you come from? They each have an idea of what's best for you. One wants instant gratification. The other wants more values-based decision making. And so how do you navigate that when there are two different parts of you that both have an idea of what you should do? Well, that's when we want to really, if you have absolutely no idea what to do in those situations or any decision-making situations, then that means there's a disconnect from your authenticity, from your authentic self. That means that you don't actually know who your true self is and what your actual values are. And you can get to know those in a couple of different ways. If you don't know who your authentic self is, you can pay attention to what inspires you, because whenever someone else inspires you, it's because they're embodying your potential. So they're showing you, they're just mirroring back to you who you're here to be, or pieces of you that maybe haven't been realized yet. Jealousy is also a really good way to find that out. So is attraction. There are always going to be pieces of other people that are mirrored back to you in specific ways that will show you who you actually are. So paying attention to who inspires you is a really great way to get in touch with your authenticity. Thinking back to your childhood, what used to light you up when you were a little kid? What books did you read? What movies did you watch? What characters were you fascinated with? Is a way to, those are all clues to who your authentic true self is. And then just thinking about moments when you felt so excited or lit up or passionate or whatever, thinking about those moments, how you felt in your body, what sounded good to you then, what you were excited about then. All of that is going to be showing you pieces of who you actually are. And when you know who you actually are, then it gets a lot easier to understand all of these different parts of you that might not have the same goals and purpose and values that you do. So the reason why we call them inner children is because a lot of these different ideas, especially if they're extreme, like you get social anxiety when you walk into a group of people, or you're really terrified of public speaking, or you have lots of fears around meeting new people or receiving good things, or you shut down in conflict. All of those are ways that you learned to survive or cope back in the past. The authentic self, and this is, again, we can go to internal family systems. The authentic self is calm, curious, creative, compassionate, caring, curious, all the C's, joyful, inspired, hopeful. That's your authentic self. That's everyone's authentic self. And from that place, it's going to, express differently depending on what your preferences are. And each of our personalities are obviously as different as a thumbprint. But when you're in your authentic self, life is manageable. You can actually face it and feel resourced. You feel loved no matter what. You know that you'll figure it out. That's how you know that you're in your authentic self. That's your true adult self. That is available to every single person. It is at the core of every single person. That's who you actually are. So whenever you're not that version of you, then you know, oh, something is triggering me and it's reminding me of something in the past. And now I'm reacting as if I was 5, 6, 7, 12, 13, whatever. That's why we call them inner children, is because they're younger versions of ourselves. Even to get triggered is actually to time travel a little bit. It's where your body actually thinks something in the past is happening presently. And that's why it's reacting the way that it is, even if that reaction has nothing to do with who you know yourself to be. When you feel calm and safe and loved, then you'll know that it's an inner child. I use inner child work in my practice with my clients and other creatives because it really helps you to see that, again, like I said in the beginning of this episode, the parts of you or the things that come up when you find that you feel really stuck in your life are often these younger parts of you that are actually asking for something. When I say something, I mean that there is an emotional developmental need that did not get filled as a kid and is coming up now. So this is where the relationship between healing and creating is actually super fascinating, because people say to me all the time, it's so ironic, but the thing that I want to do the most is the thing that scares me the most. And I'll always say, no, it's not ironic. It's this divine design. It's exactly how it should be. The dreams that you have will always point you towards the emotional holes that need to be filled. That's the point of them in a lot of ways. And when you can meet the needs of those parts of you, and then you can create these things that you're here to create, well, that's a sustainable path forward. You don't want to ignore the needs that you have, which is a lot of the advice that we give to anyone interested in growth is, you feel the fear and do it anyways. And the truth is that the fear represents a young part of you who has a good reason to be scared. Whether or not it makes sense to our adult brain, anytime you're triggered, it makes perfect sense based on what you've been through. And so if we can differentiate who the adult is within us and just go back and remember who that adult version of you is, and then tend to the younger parts of you, then we'll begin to fill in these emotional holes. And on our way to creating, we will be healing our inner child. And it's one of the most powerful connections that I've ever experienced and studied is this connection between your dreams and your inner child. What I will hear sometimes is there another way? Is there another way besides inner child work to move forward? And I would say yes. I would say that there are a lot of ways. I mean, there are like people that kind of want to do some hacking, some body biohacking, and just prime their subconscious mind and create new, exciting experiences within their body that Tony Robbins is famous for this. And even he'll say that he's done a lot of inner child work too. So that's been a part of his journey. But he'll teach people to like prime their bodies for joy and excitement and certainty and love and all of those things so that they don't go back to these old pathways of fear and anxiety and depression. And he basically is saying like, make those exciting experiences bigger than your past fear experiences. And eventually you'll rewire your experience. And some people have success with that. And we know that a lot of people don't because your trauma eats positive affirmations for breakfast, especially for those of us that have like pretty severe trauma or a lot of like collective trauma, like complex PTSD. That experience in your body is so powerful that it will seem like no amount of goodness can actually erase it. And this is not the podcast or the episode where we'll talk about it, but I will say like what we are talking about is like neural structures in your brain, like things that your brain knows what to do because of how you learned to cope as a kid. So like sometimes it feels like you can't even help it. Well, a lot of times, obviously you can't even help these reactions that you have to maybe, like I said earlier, anxiety in social situations or like procrastination when it comes to moving towards your dreams. You won't, it'll be really confusing, like why those things are happening and you can't figure it out. And just a certain part of your brain is lighting up, telling you exactly what to do because it thinks that you're back in 1995 or whatever. And so the reason why inner child work is really effective is because nurture and comfort, the reparenting work that we are suggesting with coaches and therapists and internal family systems, like the inner child work that you hear about, is a language that your brain actually understands really well. Oh, there's a safe adult online that's going to help me through this and love me and teach me a better way. Okay, if we can learn to trust that, then that's a really clear language that your brain will understand, and that will help you move through and move towards really difficult things. So are there other ways besides inner child work? Yes, there are. And at the same time, I think that inner child work is the most valuable and helpful piece of the healing journey that we know about today. And it's not like there's these real inner children inside of your body that you need to, care for in this in your actual present day reality. We are using our imagination to go back to these experiences and these memories and give them something different. imagining safe moms and dads with our younger selves when we feel scared, asking those parts of us when we're procrastinating, what are you afraid is going to happen if I do this? A lot of times it's rejection and abandonment, and giving them experiences of never being rejected, giving them experiences of safe moms and dads and safe people loving them and being with them. It's language that your brain can understand. And it's also experiences that bring your body these experiences of safety. And that's what changes your brain. And that's what makes creativity a lot easier. So the other thing that happens sometimes with clients or with people that do this work is they'll say, this doesn't work. This isn't working for me. And there can be a couple of different reasons for that. For those of us that have had maybe abuse in our history or real neglect, or have fewer examples of safe adults in our life, then it can be really hard for our brains to believe these imagined experiences of safe adults. So if you were to do inner child work with, a practitioner, and they're having you not go back to the traumatic memory, but just go back to the kid that experienced the traumatic memory and just really bring in safe adults to be with them. Well, that can be a hard sell to somebody who maybe as a kid, they never experienced safe adults. There are ways to work with that. So many ways. That's so healable, but it can feel like at first, like very confusing. Am I doing this right? Like, I don't think this is working for me. Because all we know is we go back, we think about that little kid or that time, and we just feel awful. And that's the end of the story. And in those cases, gentle persistence is the path, but also getting support is the path too, because we want somebody to be with us in case our body is just being flooded with negative emotion, or just make sure that we're not creating another negative memory and experience. Or the other thing can be if you get flooded with emotion. So if you go back and you have a weaker sense of your authentic, true adult self, then going back to some of those memories or that inner child inside is sometimes re-traumatizing, sometimes not helpful at all. If you even thinking about it makes you feel kind of yucky inside, or maybe scared, then I just want you to know that's just because there are memories there that feel really scary, and that your authentic self is still probably developing. And that's totally okay. That's where I was at. That's where a lot of people were at. I really just want to encourage you that it will not always feel this way. And this is when we really want to talk to somebody, talk to a friend, talk to a professional, and help kind of bring some safety to those parts of us. Because the most beautiful thing that you can experience is going back to your childhood. Well, actually, I'll say Peter Levine, who's just one of the fathers of trauma science and trauma research, says it's never too late to give yourself the childhood you deserve. Can you imagine what it would have been like if you would have had a childhood that was so full of nurture and support and joy and resources and connection that when you wanted to create something, you grew up to be an adult that thought, absolutely, I can do that. Of course, I have so much evidence as to why I'm supported by safe adults. I'm loved. If people don't like it or don't like me, then that's on them. I don't internalize that because I know who I am. Can you imagine having that kind of childhood? I don't know a lot of people who had that level of, nurture and support to where they really feel like they can be in their embodied adult self at all times. But that's the kind of childhood you can create for yourself over time by spending daily time with your inner child. And if you feel like inner child work doesn't work, then there are ways to develop your authentic self more and more so that it doesn't feel like such a big deal that kind of takes you out emotionally. You can also work with a practitioner or support to help sort of diffuse. EMDR is great for this. I always say even going on walks is kind of a type of EMDR, because your EMDR is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So all that means is you're actually moving your eyes back and forth, and then a therapist will help you sort of slowly talk about something that might be painful. And as you're moving your eyes, what happens is your brain, it kind of diffuses the trigger so it doesn't feel so big. And you can get that same effect by walking because your brain is scanning the environment in front of you. So if any of my clients feel like they want to begin practicing being with their inner child, bringing love, speaking kind things to them, imagining safe adults, and they want to try it on their own, I'll always suggest that they do it while they're on a walk outside. That's a really great way to be with your inner child. So I want to just leave you guys with inner child work. To me at first was like it was a completely new language. And I think for religious people, it can be really overwhelming. It can feel really woo-woo. I'm not sure why that is, honestly, in hindsight. I just remember feeling like this was maybe not the safest thing, or it was a weird thing to do. And on this side of it, I'll always say like, I'll say you can't get around inner child work. I'm sure that there are ways to move forward without that. I would say that you wouldn't want to get around inner child work because giving yourself a new experiences as a little kid, imagining new experiences for yourself, it helps release old trauma, and it creates a new reality and a new experience for you so that you can actually move forward towards the things that you are here to create. So just remember that when you feel stuck, it's because young parts of you are afraid of what will happen if you move forward, period. And if we can work with that, everything can change. So I hope that helps you guys. I hope that encourages you. You can go ahead and check out some of the inner child episodes that we've done with Laura Duncan, with Stephanie Bagato, and Jenna Remersma a few weeks ago on parts work and inner child work. And stay encouraged that healing is so possible. Okay. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Heal Create podcast. If you have enjoyed this podcast at all, we would love if you would subscribe, rate it, send it to your friends. That would really help us get this message out, this message of empowering people towards emotionally sustainable creativity. Also, we have a PDF for you. So there's an exercise that I created called inspiration mirroring. And basically, it is for those that are looking to get acquainted with their authentic, truest self, based on the idea that whatever inspires you embodies your potential. And so if you want to get started on that journey today of really understanding who you are at your core, the person that you hope you are, then you can go to the link in my bio on Instagram or go to my website and download that PDF. I think that's all. Have a beautiful day.